Hello everybody, my name is Marlo and welcome back to TekTopia. Last week was episode 50 where we did an entire world tour that lasted 1 hour and 20 minutes, so I really hope you guys did enjoy that extra long special video. But today everybody, we are starting a brand new village and I am so excited to tell you all about it. I've got so many ideas, but before we do, I need to go sleep. Oh, good morning world, good morning tree, good morning wolves, wherever you have gone, you are somewhere around here. So, shall we begin? The location of our new village is actually just over that way a little bit, and we're going to head over there in just one sec, but before we do that, I guess I can tell you what the village is going to be. We are going to be building an elven-inspired fantasy village. I'm really excited for it and I hope you guys are too, but if you're not, let's head over to the location of this new village and I'll do some explaining of my ideas and hopefully it should get you excited too. So this area right here is where we're going to be setting up our fantasy elven village, and the first thing I'm going to say, because I know some of you are probably thinking it, why am I setting up an elf village right beside an ocean biome here in the middle of a mountain range with barely any trees around? Not very elf-like, right? No, you're correct entirely. I'm more so leaning towards the side of fantasy instead of elven. We're just going to be a little bit inspired by the elves, so the architecture will be a little bit like that, and maybe some of the foliage that we do, you know, custom trees and that sort of stuff. So it's going to look elven in a way, but I know the location isn't exactly very well suited to that. They would most likely be in a dark oak forest or something like that. But as soon as I saw this location right here, I just had a massive influx of inspiration and ideas, and I just had to pick it for this village. So the area I'm actually hoping to use up is this flat piece of land right here. It's kind of like a bit of an island really, but this flat land right here, this area over here, and then these two mountain peaks. Probably won't go over to the forest nor those mountain islands over there, and I didn't really have plans to go any further to that point, but yeah, that is the area that I'm hoping to be able to fill up. I think today we're actually at least going to get our town hall marker in. Not actually build the town hall, but just make it like temporary dirt hut or something, just so we can see the village border and how much of this we can actually fit in. So we're not really going to be making any structures today other than a very, very temporary town hall. We're more so going to be terraforming, landscaping, and generally just shaping the terrain of this, because take that right there, for example, that floating rock with a tree on top. I don't really want that in my village, so I'm going to be trying to neaten things up a little bit and just get a nice landscape that we can actually start building on. So it's not just going to be tiny things like that. I want to carve entire pieces of terrain out. Like, I'd quite like to make this a little island and have a river flowing through the middle here, and probably take down like this mountain right here because it looks kind of weird, and various other things like that. So really this is going to be a terraforming slash planning episode. We probably won't get to any building itself. We'll save that for next episode, I think. I'm fairly certain we're not actually going to have to build up a temporary town hall today, which is really good, to be honest. I would rather wait until we have the actual structure all sorted out before we put down the marker. But I think we should just be able to figure this out using some very basic counting. So the center of all TekTopia villages are marked by the town hall structure marker. So if I were to place mine right here, we would be able to go out by 120 blocks in all 4 directions until we reach the village border. So that is how big a TekTopia village actually is. Pretty large, right? So we can actually figure that out. And before I show you, if we were to build our town hall here, I would make sure to flatten this area out a little bit so we can actually build it of a reasonable size. It's not just going to be like a tiny little thing right here. It'll actually be pretty large. So yeah, if we were to build it here, we can actually go out in each of the 4 cardinal directions 120 blocks and place a block. So we can do that for the south, for the east, for the north, and for the west, and then we'll be able to see where the village border would be on all 4 of those sides. And once we have all of those markers down, we can can draw ourselves a square connecting up to each of them, which will give us a pretty good idea at the location of our village and what actually fits inside of the border here, which, as you can see, is pretty much everything except for a couple of parts that get ever so slightly cut off. But as long as we don't actually build anything of importance that the villagers would have to access, we should all be good. So yeah, very happy with the location of that stone block right there. We'll be sure to keep that located and not destroy it, because that's where the town hall is going to be going. But I think to begin with here, as I said, we're going to be doing a lot of terraforming, and we're just going to jump straight into a time lapse and try and get this place looking a little bit better. Alright, it's looking a lot cleaner around here now. We've tidied things up a little bit and I am much happier with how things are looking right now. But this is not going to be the final look of the land as far as terraforming is concerned. I will most likely do some more at some point or another. But as I said, I just wanted to get rid of the things that I knew I definitely didn't want. And there are a couple more spots to take. Right here, for example, we have these one hole divots in the ground. I don't like that sort of stuff, and there's a couple more things here and there that I'll probably notice as I play in this village, but those are the types of thing I can just do very quickly off camera. It's like a 5-second job right there. I could probably do it right now if only I had blocks, but I do not. So yeah, this is not how it's going to look. We'll probably do more terraforming once we have a better idea of how things are going to look. And I actually want to go through that with you now. So I'm going to give you my ideas of the lay of the land and how this is all going to work out at the moment. I haven't got it all planned out, but yeah, I just want to give you my general plan for how this village is going to look, at least to start with here. So here is an overview of our fantasy village to be, and I've actually done some really high quality infographic work here with some super high detailed illustrations and just some awesome planning, so I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. I'm not being sarcastic at all. I've worked really hard on it, I promise, definitely. So let's start off with talking about how we're going to get around this village itself. We can have some islands per se, even though they're not exactly islands because they're actually connected, but they look a little bit like that. So we are going to be getting to and from each of them using some bridges marked by these very high quality orange lines that you can see now. So yeah, we're going to be having one going across our custom river we've just made, one going across the natural river, and then one connecting up those two mountain peaks right there. So that is how we're going to be getting to and from each section of the village. And that top bridge right there, we actually need a way to access it. We have a little bit of a cliff face in the way at the moment, which is why I want to add in a diagonal staircase leading up that cliff face and to the terrain where you can see it's all snowy. No, that's not just a letter Z. I would actually like to have a staircase there. I don't know how to illustrate that, but hopefully you guys kind of know what I mean by that. Just a staircase going up the cliff face. Fingers crossed that makes sense, but yeah, that is everything that I've got figured out so far about how we're going to be getting around the village. Obviously, we'll have like actual pathways and stuff like this, but that's something I'll most likely do once all of the structures are in place, which I'm going to move on to now. So obviously, we figured out the town hall is going to go in that spot right there. The whole village is kind of centered around that, so we have to make sure that stays right there where we have specifically positioned it, right at the end of that bridge. So that's where the town hall is going to be going, and the only other building I've figured out exactly where it's going to go is actually my base at the very top point of that mountain right there, which I've already moved a couple of chests in and my bed is there. So yeah, that is where I'm going to set up my storage room, as I do for every village, just to keep my stuff whilst I'm working on this place. I was originally going to put a smithy as like a little bit of a sky forge all the way up the top there. I thought that would have been a really cool build, but it's quite a long way for our blacksmith to walk when we do eventually get one, so maybe we just put him at the other end of the bridge or somewhere else. I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, those are the only two buildings I've specifically picked out a position for in this village. The rest of them I've just done very vague ideas. So let's take all of the homes, for example. They're going to be going on the right hand side of the village. This big stretch of land right here will be where all of the villager houses are going to go. I think that should be large enough to fit all of them in. That's pretty big of an area, and it's not going to be like a humongous village. We're not going to need tons of houses. So I'm imagining that will be enough room, and the rest of the buildings are going to go in these three spots right here. And what I mean by other is just the smithy, what are some other buildings? Let's think quickly. A library, school, a tavern, that sort of stuff right there. That is where all of those are going to be going. I'm not 100% certain if it's going to be enough room to fit them all in, so we may have to bring some other to the home section. Possibly like the tavern could go there, maybe the school or something like that. But for the most part, I think it would be cool to kind of have two sections of our village here. We did a little bit of a similar thing in Mecklen's Vale, if you guys can remember. Part of the alley, or the valley, sorry, was mostly homes and the rest was everything else. Doing a similar thing here. I'm not sure if it's going to work out. I don't really want to do any more planning than this. I like to keep it pretty vague. I don't want to specifically pick out every single building, otherwise I'm going to end up changing my ideas and it's just going to mess me up. So it's better to do this very vague idea to begin with, but hopefully guys that makes sense to you and you can get somewhat of an idea of how I'm imagining this village to look. Hopefully you now have a pretty good understanding of how this village is going to look location wise and how everything is positioned. What we need to talk about now is actually the architecture style and more specifically the block palette. Basically every building we do in this village is going to be made up of dark oak wood, regular oak wood, all of the variants of course, not just these two specifically, and then these cyan blocks as well. Now these are here to give it a beautiful pop of color next to what is a pretty boring block palette, at least where fantasy villages are concerned. We need something to make it look vibrant and fantastical really, which is what the cyan is going to do here. It looks really quite nice along these two blocks right here. I'll show you in just a second, but we are also probably going to add in some other blocks here and there. I'm sure spruce will make an appearance and some stone will probably crop in from time to time, and maybe a couple of other colors, but for the most part dark oak, oak, and then cyan as a color are going to be all of the main blocks we're using. And just to give you an idea of how that looks, here is a very simple two-person home probably mock-up I've done, just to show you what one would look like. Obviously it'll be probably more detailed than this and more fantastical looking, but this is just to give you an idea. And that building right there behind it is actually the first iteration of a block palette that I had for a fantasy village. Kind of glad I didn't end up using that because that's a lot of quartz I'd have to gather, but still, let me know what you guys think of that one as well. I'd be very interested to hear what you think of both of these, but generally I prefer the first one with the wood and the cyan. So to make this village we are going to need lots of dark oak wood, lots of regular oak wood, and then lots of cyan. I'm fine for gravel and wool honestly, but I don't have a lot of the cyan dye, which is what I need to work on now. So to make cyan dye, in case you don't know, you need green dye and blue dye. I have more lapis than I can possibly count, so that's not an issue there. but I don't really have a good source of cactus, and I don't really feel like going to a desert every single time I need to get some cyan dye. So what I think I'm going to do, most likely in this mountain here, probably, I can't think of a better place to put it, I'm just going to make a little bit of a cactus farm. Nothing crazy, just enough to get a steady supply of green dye actually in, so whenever I need it, it's there for me to use. Just on top of the mountain peak here, down this hole is where the cactus farm actually is, and I'm choosing to leave this drop open. I know I may fall down, but I need to remind myself to actually expand the farm. Oh, we can see a piece of cactus. Oh, that's awesome. I need to remind myself to make an expansion. I just ran out of cactus, so I couldn't do anymore, but yeah, we can pretty much double up how many cacti are actually being produced down there, which is awesome. And they eventually, once you saw them flow through that water, end up at this chest here, which is weirdly amongst all of the stone. This probably isn't going to be permanent. I'll maybe set something up when we have our base above all sorted out, but as you can see, for a couple of minutes, that's pretty good. 9 cactuses is pretty good going. And some of you are probably wondering, why am I not using the cactus farm over at Asteria? I'm not sure how many of you actually remember that, but yeah, we do in fact have a very, very small cactus farm over at Asteria in the underground tree farm, and that's the reason I'm not using it, because it's tiny. It's really small, it barely produces anything. I need something a little bit more substantial than that, and this right here should do the job. Now what I have to do is something I really have not been looking forward to. It's my least favorite part of starting a new village every single time. I have to move the majority of my items over, and I'm not going to do every single one just yet, and I probably won't at all. I usually leave quite a lot left behind. But yeah, I don't have a base to put it in at the moment, so I'm just going to grab the necessities really. Maybe grab most of my wood and all of my valuables and that sort of thing, and just make a chest pile until I figure out what type of building I'm doing up here. But still, that's a couple of trips I'm gonna have to make, you know, shulker boxes in hand, flying them over. But thankfully it's not as bad as when we moved from Mecklendsville to Asteria. That was like a 4,000 block long flight every single time. That was painful, I can assure you. This one is actually just a couple of hundred. You can see in the top right here, or top left, sorry, we were at like minus 200, minus 600. We basically need to get to 0, 0, and eventually we end up at this swamp biome, which is where the outskirts of the undergrowth is. We should see a couple of carriages in a second. Yep, there's one that spawned over there, and here is the undergrowth. Ah, it's been so long since we've been here. No, it's not even been an episode, but yeah, I'm gonna grab all of my stuff that I currently need, like right now, from my storage room. There's so many items in here, I really don't need all of these, but yeah, I'll grab what I can hold in all of my shulker boxes, which I believe are in that chest right there. So basically whatever fits in here, I'm going to bring it on over and set up some sort of very, very temporary sorting system, or storage system. It's not going to be automatic. A pile of chests is what I'm going to do. I'm even too lazy to move the stuff out of the shulker boxes into a pile of chests, so I'm just leaving it in here until we get situated, most likely next episode. So it's a bit messy for now, but I think that's fine. I'm going to quickly run through what I brought with me, because some of you may actually be curious of that. So I've got a box of all of my logs in here, the rest of my wood related products, a bunch of stone and some other full blocks that I didn't really want to leave behind, sand and gravel, obviously going to need a lot of this to make the cyan concrete and concrete powder, some of my ores and valuables in these 2 boxes right here, and a little bit of redstone, box of gunpowder, box of rockets, and some miscellaneous items that I thought, hey, maybe I could use them at some point or another. Even more rockets in this chest, and then this is my greenery box, which has just all of my flowers, some saplings, and some seeds, which we're going to be able to use. And the final one right here is my mending tools. I actually need to get that one back on the bar. That's my main pickaxe right there, the pickaxe of the undergrowth, some food, and then 4 stacks of emeralds, because if you guys guys can remember, last time when we moved from Asteria to the Undergrowth, we had an agreement to just bring along 4 stacks of emeralds each time, just to give us a bit of a helping hand in the early stages of a village, because we've done the grind before multiple times. I just want to build, you know, I don't want to have to worry about going mining for emeralds. So hopefully you guys are still cool with me bringing 4 emeralds along. If you're not, then let me know and I'll not do it next time, but hopefully you are, because it is actually, yeah, really helpful. Excuse me, Mr. Sheep, I'm trying to record an outro here, thank you very much. So unfortunately guys, this is where we're going to have to wrap up today's episode. It may be a little bit shorter than usual, I'm not entirely sure, I'm sorry about that. I'll make sure next episode is of a good length. And I apologize if it seems like we didn't do a whole lot today. It's just time that I usually would have spent actually building in the village. I have spent a lot actually just planning and trying to figure out how this village is going to work, you know, what type of style, how the block palette and the builds are going to look like, and picking a location. Everything that has gone before this episode took a whole lot of time to put together and figure out in my own head. So hopefully you guys don't mind that, but next episode we're going to be doing a lot of building. We'll make sure we get the town hall, probably sort out my base as well, and maybe do a couple of other things. I'm not too sure just yet, but I am so excited to be starting this new village, our 4th village in this world. I can't believe it. I hope you guys are excited as well. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I really hope you did enjoy. You guys are awesome. Just thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.